everyone. We're ready for another CCO Club webinar 110. Can you believe we've been doing this for so long? And it is an interesting topic that we have for you tonight. Many of you know that in our CCO Club, we get all these great questions. Sometimes they're uh, scenarios that they are club members are experiencing at work. That's what this one was. And honestly, I did some research on this, but I had to actually tap in to another expert because I wasn't sure. And I put their link at the end of the resource for you guys if you want to look look more into this area of gastroenterology. But I wanted to give you an idea of what it looks like to submit to the CCO club, and that we in the CCO club not only work with students and help people continue to get their CEUs, but we're there for our peers to bounce questions off of and discuss these scenarios that may or may not always have an answer to them. And sometimes we're kind of playing, and not that you're making the rules up as you go, but sometimes there is no right answer. However, this time I think we found it, and I'm going to show you how we do research behind the scenes. This is going to be helpful to you because you are going to be called many times to do research. So I want to give you kind of the technique of how we do that. The question had come in, and I'm going to pull it in from the CCO club and let you look at it, because quite honestly, it is they sent the whole op report redacted, of course, and so I don't want this font to end up being really, really small. And putting it on a slide, I'm just going to bring that in, and then we've got find a code, of course, to go over the codes. The question was, I know to code new placement 44300, but according to the encoder, I cannot code a repair of old side of a J tube 44005. There is not a code for removal of J tube unless I use removal of a foreign body or use unlisted procedure code. Any questions? Now, again, that all being said, you haven't seen the report, so you're thinking, okay, well, what are those codes? I'm going to explain that to you. And I didn't. I could have pulled in a lot of information about what J codes are, or not, J tubes are, and so on and so forth. But really, we just wanted to get to the meat of this, right? What is the scenario? The fact is, in this particular instance, the patient, and I'm sorry I made this small because I kind of wanted you to see all of it, uh, that the patient has a J tube. There are complications, and they are needing to remove the J tube and replace it with a new one. Now you think, well, isn't that pretty common? Doesn't that actually happen? Well, usually what they do is they don't replace it, right? It's a temporary thing, and then they go in and close it all up. And this time they weren't doing that. So the main the main procedures that we're needing to do the codes for is surgical removal of this J tube with the repair of the enterotomy. Okay. If you repair where that J tube is located, that's the end. However, the fact is this patient still needed this J tube, and they had to go and repair where it was at because there was a complication, and that they weren't able to maintain or keep that patent anymore. So they moved down in the jejunum and made a new one. Well, there's no codes for that to describe doing that. And so again, what we've done is we've done the jejunum. They've removed it and put that tube, that lumen, back together, and then they move down, and then they just put in another J tube or ostomy. Okay, so we're going to look at the op note real quick now. Let me pull that over, and then I'll go over the codes. And I did get permission to be able to show you this question. Of course, you would be seeing this if you were in the CCO club to get access to see the questions that were made, and you would be free to comment on those as well. So again, we just looked at the pre-op and the post-op, the anesthesia and everything, and the findings. We're not going to worry about that too much. What I want to go down here is to the indications. Let's look at why this is a problem so that we can set the stage. Ultimately, we have this gentleman who has had esophageal cancer, and he's had a esophageal gastrectomy. So he's had part of his esophagus and stomach removed, and then he had a reoccurrence of cancer. He's gone through all of his treatments and everything. And then let's go ahead and jump down. And it says here that his oncologist arranged for him to have a jejunostomy. Ultimately, that's a colostomy, but in the jejunum instead of the colon. The tube, unfortunately, has not worked for him, with leakage at the site and causing a large skin burn. Because it's acid, guys, that's there. It's caused a lot of complications. And then they said the previous surgeon has attempted 3 times to repair this ostomy without obtaining good results. And then he has gone to this provider's office, and they adjusted the bumper of the tube, but that only lasted for about a week. So in other words, we've got leaking and stuff, and it's causing complications. So they're trying externally and minimally evasively to fix this ostomy, and it's going to fail. It all failed. So the patient has continued to lose weight due to the fact that he cannot tolerate his feedings, because when they feed him, it is literally burning the the ostomy site. And then he recommended for him to consider removing the previous tube with a new jejunum tube placement. And so that's the procedure that they choose to do. So then you can go and you can read about what they do. But the key thing here is that you can code for the creation and of the ostomy and the placement of the ostomy. You can code for the removal of the ostomy and the putting back the anastomosis, putting that lumen, the intestine, back together. But in the same setting, you can't code to turn around and put in another uh, ostomy at a different site. Now you can replace, there's a code for replacing the J tube. All right. But that's not what they did. They closed it at that site and created an all new site. You can't, there's no scenario, no code to do that. So now that we know that that's what is going on, and that's what the dilemma is, and how are we going to